he had a millipede in his garden.
Go on.
Not known to science. Before we get into it though, this podcast is sponsored by MPB. MPB is the largest global platform to buy, sell and trade used photography and videography equipment. It is a fantastic platform which you can find yourself some DSLR cameras, some drones, some action cameras, whatever you need to go and be creative, MPB will have it there just for you. Get yourself over to MPB. But anyway, back to the podcast. I was in Cornwall recently.
Go on.
Relatively recently anyway. And I was looking for cool animals, looking for really cool things. The show's called Animal Anomalies, presented by the Wild Times, sponsored by MPB. And I sort of go looking for things that shouldn't be in the UK. Down in Cornwall, I was with Jacob, and we were looking for this, that, and the other. And we came across like a few different cool things, but one in particular I really wanted to see.
Go for it.
Stick insects. You like that?
I actually got quite a lot of time for this, yeah. I once used to... I house sat for someone when I was young, and they had my family did, and they had stick insects in there.
Oh,
and I
really?
became really interested in them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So they're wild in the UK.
Yeah, I didn't.
For anyone who didn't know, yeah.
In Cornwall?
They shouldn't be. Yeah.
Is that the only place they are in the UK?
Pretty much. So basically, the UK has no native stick insects. Like they shouldn't be here. No way. Yeah, right. We've just evolved to not have them, but. Since like 1909 or 1919, shipments...
They're two very different years. Oh, you just mean between those years?
Yeah, or something like that.
No, it was either this year or this year. I
remember the first one, all right, John.
Okay, all right.
The first batch of these stick insects had made it over to the UK. Right. Now, they came to the UK from New Zealand, and it was a part of shipments containing plants or like trees and all that sort of stuff coming over for like these garden centres to sell, like exotic plants and trees. And they first like stuck themselves to these and come over. 1909 or 1919, they found themselves down in the southwest of England, so Cornwall. Paynton, I think, is the first place, which is Devon. And the Isles of Scilly as well. So there's like three main populations that have arisen, and there's three different types. Right. So you've got the unarmed stick insect, you've got the smooth stick insect, and you've got the prickly stick insect.
Hey, one of them's good at chatting people up, and one of them's, gets its back up quite quickly.
Right. Yeah. So went looking for the prickly ones, the prickly stick insects, right?
You're a prickly guy.
Yeah, it is like pretty cool looking things. So we travelled down to Falmouth, looked around, didn't see any. Travelled over to a place called St. Mawes, and this is really interesting because they've because of the Gulf Stream that hits that part of the country, they've managed to survive, because they shouldn't really be able to survive a frost.
It's quite a warm part of the country though down there. But Scilly in particular looks like it's
tropical,
like a completely different place. Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So these stick insects, they shouldn't be able to survive in the UK, but down on that side, so if you chucked them in Kent, they wouldn't survive. But if you chucked them on the southwest, the Gulf Stream warms them enough that they don't experience frost as harsh as they would anywhere else around the UK.
Right.
Now, there's this one place in particular in St. Mawes where these stick insects have been for a very long time now. So a fella who lived in this like gardens, sort of like had his own like Riviera gardens. He created his own like exotic garden.
Right, got
and
it.
He was like, right, I want to stick stuff in here that I really like. So he went over to the Isles of Scilly. He realised they had stick insects in this garden centre, so he decided to bring some trees and stuff and ferns back to where his place was in St. Mawes in Cornwall,
right.
And he stuck them in there, and these stick insects have been there since like the 1940s, ever since. So it's like 70 years later or something, like 1960s, I can't remember.
I suppose they don't have any main predators down there? Birds, I guess?
I think birds would be the main threat. Yeah, like a bird just picking them off. But it's a stick insect. You can't see them. They're really difficult to spot. So we went down there, and it's now called Lamoran Gardens, right? It's been like someone bought it 40, 50 years ago. Right. Lovely fella. We were chatting to him and just sort of asking him questions about his like stick insects, what are they doing here, what's happened, this, that and the other. And one thing I found really interesting while we were talking about it, he obviously like bought the place, he'd extended it, created loads of different things, but he was talking about he's now created his own microclimate down there. So this garden, and the story he was telling was mad, because this garden he's got, and where it's placed with the Gulf Stream and all that sort of stuff, it got to like -10 in that part of Cornwall. He went to this ferry and it was -10.
Right.
He'd left his place in his Riviera gardens, like his big exotic gardens, and it was 3 degrees. How mad is that?
Shorts and t-shirt weather.
Honestly, in his garden was
What is this for
tropical.
Fahrenheit for our transatlantic views? Because you're doing this all
Absolutely
in...
no idea. We do it in the proper one.
The proper one?
Yeah, Celsius.
I think we came up with Fahrenheit, mate.
Did we?
Yeah, I think so.
We changed it for a good reason, though, innit?
I don't think we could come up with Fahrenheit. I just said that.
Zero's freezing, for anyone that doesn't understand. And stick insects wouldn't be able to survive
in freezing temperature.
For long. So, but this garden's a microclimate within itself, and it's managed to keep these stick insects alive. And because they're so localized and they don't need like a mate, so they can just sort of pop out eggs on their own, and they don't need to travel far for food, they stay in the same spot basically their entire lives. So they've been in this gardens like forever, since they've arrived. They've never changed, it's never moved, anything like that.
Yeah.
But what I also found was extremely interesting, and I didn't know this until I got there and started talking to this fella. He had a millipede in his garden.
Go on.
Not known to science.
Oh, right. Just a complete...
Anomaly.
To
science.
An anomaly, a world anomaly.
A world anomaly, like never before documented, never before seen. And
that's crazy. Is it because of that just weird climate?
So I think, and this is...
Because he must have got it from somewhere.
Exactly. So basically, you can only find this millipede as of like now that we know about.
In his garden.
In this Lamoran Gardens in St. Mawes in Cornwall. It's the only place that we know about. Now... like people went to this gardens to like do surveys and like see what was what in the gardens, and they went along with a net into some like bark on the floor and like just sort of try and scoop things up, and they found one of these millipedes. So they took it, they went away, they were like, can we take this? And he said yeah. They took it away, they came back and they were like, we don't know what this is. We've asked everybody around the world, like millipede enthusiasts and like experts, we don't know what this millipede is. So we think it's a first. We think it's new to science. Do you want to name it?
What did he go for?
He went for his name.
What was his name again?
His name's Dudley. His surname is Dudley Cook. So he had like a double barrel. So this stick insect's got like a Latin first name, and then like a Dudley Cook sort of. I don't know the second, but it's got
like a double barrel surname.
Yeah. So it's like something Dudley Cookorium or something like that, right?
Oh right.
How cool is that though? Having his name as an animal.
That's that. Do you know, like, it might have just... I don't know, do insects evolve quicker? Because I remember reading ages ago about, like, there's... In Manhattan, there's a certain... Like, a couple of blocks where they've got an ant, which is completely unique to that area. And they reckon it's because it's survived off of, like, junk food and you know, rubbish and stuff. And it's sort of evolved to be just... It's just weirdly... There's, like, a Manhattan ant.
I don't know, actually.
So maybe insects...
Yeah, so because I'm not.
I'm bringing something to the. Do you know what? I am bringing something to the table, aren't I?
Bringing the stories and that. Yeah, there's I'll tell you, sacking Rachel off. Rachel, if you're listening,
Rachel, we need a producer, mate.
So I don't know about that. Someone with more knowledge, listening or watching, please let us know if that's the case. I
think there's a unique ant to Manhattan, and if there isn't, sack me.
So the millipede.
Go on.
Has to have come from somewhere else. It can't have come from the UK. So basically, this garden, you got to think about this garden. It's got trees and shrubs and plants from all over the world. And I think what they've sort of like deduced from this is there are millipedes in New Zealand that are undiscovered, essentially, because a lot of this stuff has come from New Zealand, and they did like a DNA sample of this millipede, and it matched stuff from out there. So they were like, okay, it must be from New Zealand. We've never found it before until we found it in this garden in the UK.
That's how so weird strange, yeah.
So cool
to discover something native to New Zealand in the UK for the first time.
Yeah, how crazy is that? And obviously he gets to name it as well, and he's put his own name in there, and I think that's amazing. But not only has he got stick insects that shouldn't be in the UK, like, and they've been in his garden ever since.
Yeah,
they've also got a millipede not known to science. How weird! It's crazy, isn't it? But it's so cool though, right?
That's really cool.